Hello and welcome to News Central TV. My name is Mazino Appeal. The top stories this hour. Senator Natasha Akpoti-Uduaghan files contempt application against Senate President Godswill Akpabio over her suspension. And Rivers State House of Assembly calls on the Department of State Services to investigate Chief Judge Justice Simeon Amadi over allegations of age falsification. Also coming up, Angola to host peace talks between DR Congo, M23 on March 18. Details coming up now. Welcome again. Now let's begin by telling you that Natasha Akpoti-Uduaghan, the senator representing Kogi Central, has filed a contempt application against Senate President Godswill Akpabio over her suspension. On March 4, the Federal High Court in Abuja issued an order restraining the Senate Committee on Ethics, Privileges and Public Petitions from taking disciplinary action against Akpoti-Uduaghan. Justice Obiora Ogwatu granted the order following an ex parte application filed by the senator's legal team. However, just 48 hours later, the Senate suspended Akpoti-Uduaghan for 6 months over alleged misconduct. The upper chamber also ordered that her office be locked and all Senate property in her possession returned to the clerk of the National Assembly. The decision came after the Senate adopted a report from the Committee on Ethics, Privileges and Public Petitions chaired by Senator Nada Imaswe. And in the meantime, the Senate is taking steps to address the lingering controversy surrounding suspended Senator Natasha Akpoti-Uduaghan's allegations of sexual harassment against Senate President Godswill Akpabio. During Thursday's plenary, Senate Leader Okpeyemi Bamidele raised the motion of urgent national importance, calling for a solution, or rather resolution, to the matter. Citing orders 41 and 51 of the Senate Rule Book, Bamidele stressed the need to put the controversy to rest. He explained that the lingering issue, which stemmed from Akpoti-Uduaghan's claims and subsequent suspension, continues to distract the Senate from its constitutional duties. The Senate leader's motion followed the suspended senator's recent appeal to the Inter-Parliamentary Union in New York, urging the global body to intervene in the matter.
Of those organizations, from Inter-Parliamentary Union to Commonwealth Parliament to African Union Parliament to ECOWAS Parliament, everyone is, run on the basis of rules and regulations drawn from the protocols establishing those organizations. And that was why the Inter-Parliamentary Union president 2 days ago, after listening to our colleague, the single Senator Natasha, had to also go by their rule. One, that the issue that she raised was outside of the agenda of the meeting. Number two, having heard her, it will also be important to listen to the other side, because they are all guided by rules. And also, let me emphasize that Section 1, Sub 1 of the law establishing the Inter-Parliamentary Union itself makes it clear that membership of IPU shall be on the basis of national parliamentary organization. In other words, there are no individual members. It is parliaments of sovereign nations that are members of IPU.
Meanwhile, the Nigerian Senate has informed the Inter-Parliamentary Union that Natasha Akpoti-Uduaghan's suspension was not linked to her allegations of sexual harassment. In a formal response to Akpoti-Uduaghan's claims, the Senate's position was conveyed in a letter read at the IPU Assembly by Kafilat Ogbara, a member of the House of Representatives. Ogbara, who chaired the House Committee on Women Affairs and Social Development, is Nigeria's parliamentary representative at the IPU conference in New York. The IPU is a global organization of national parliaments committed to promoting peace, democracy, and sustainable development through diplomacy and dialogue. Akpoti-Uduaghan, who represents Kogi Central, in the Senate, has accused Senate President Godswill Akpabio of sexually harassing her. This allegation follows her suspension from the upper legislative chamber over a dispute regarding sitting arrangements. In a related development, Senate President Godswill Akpabio's camp has dismissed the authority of the Inter-Parliamentary Union to summon him over the suspension of Senator Natasha Akpoti-Uduaghan. Akpoti-Uduaghan currently serving a 6-month suspension, has accused Akpabio of sexual harassment and abuse of power. On Tuesday, she formally presented her complaint to the IPU, a United Nations agency, which stated that it needed to hear from Akpabio before taking a position on the matter. However, Akpabio's media aide, Eseme Ayibo, rejected the IPU's involvement, insisting that the issue was an internal parliamentary affair. He further stated that Akpabio was under no obligation to respond to any sermons from the IPU.
That arose during the first session, which we had this morning, the matter that was raised by our colleague from Nigeria, Senator Natasha, and because all of us heard what she said, and it only serves us better if I put a word in what she has said. So I would like to say we have heard her concerns, and having heard her, it would have been an opportunity for all of us to understand more about what she has said. But because we listened...
Let's head now to Rivers State, where the political crisis in the state has taken a new turn, as the State House of Assembly has called on the Department of State Service to investigate the Chief Judge, Justice Simeon Amadi, over allegations of age falsification. The matter was raised during Thursday's plenary session following the submission of documents to the Speaker by the House Leader, Honorable John Jack. Shortly after, Deputy Speaker Dumle Mao made a formal accusation against Justice Amadi. Now, staying in Rivers State, where residents are now reacting to Governor Siminalayi Fubara's encounter at the State House of Assembly's quarters, Fubara had visited the Assembly quarters where the House sits for plenary in response to the Supreme Court's ruling, which compels him to represent the 2025 appropriation bill before the Martins Amaole-led Assembly. The governor, however, met the gates of the entrance of the quarters shut, with no one on ground to receive him, despite sending a letter ahead of him, notifying the Speaker of his visit. Now, in their reactions, Port Harcourt residents say it is a huge embarrassment to all Rivers people that such treatment was meted to the governor. They are, however, calling for peace in the state. Moving on now, away from that, President Bola Tinubu has thrown his support behind Mudashiru Obasa's reinstatement as Speaker of the Lagos State House of Assembly, despite earlier recommendations for his resignation. The decision followed a crucial meeting on Wednesday at the presidential villa in Abuja, where Tinubu met all 40 lawmakers from the State Assembly. The meeting came in the wake of a mediation panel's recommendation that Obasa steps down after being reinstated. The panel, chaired by former Ogun State Governor Olusegun Obasanjo and former Osun State Governor Bisi Akande, was set up by the president to resolve the crisis within the House. However, after deliberations with the lawmakers, Tinubu reportedly overruled the panel's recommendations, urging all factions to rally around Obasa in the interest of stability in Lagos State and the Assembly. In more news, let's also tell you that the internal crisis within the People's Democratic Party appears to be worsening, as the party's National Disciplinary Committee has recommended the expulsion of Samuel Anyanwu, a close ally of former Rivers State Governor Nyesom Wike. The recommendations allow Anyanwu's failure to respond to allegations brought against him by the party's Young Generation Caucus. In a letter signed by NDC Chairman Tommy Kimi, the committee said Anyanwu was given the opportunity to defend himself but failed to do so. The PDP has been grappling with internal divisions since the 2023 presidential elections, with tensions between rival factions intensifying over the past 5 months. Despite efforts by the National Executive Committee to resolve disputes, the crisis within the party continues to deepen. And in the meantime, the People's Democratic Party has accused Edo State Governor Monday Okpebholo of offering 200 million naira in bribes to 4 lawmakers in exchange for their defection to the All Progressives Congress. The defectors, Donald Okugbe, Bright Iyamu, Richard Edosa, and Sunday Ojezele, officially joined the APC during a ceremony in Benin, where they were warmly welcomed by the APC chairman, Jarrett Tenebe. Following the defections, the APC now holds 13 seats in the 24-member Edo State Assembly, while the PDP has 11. The Labour Party also lost the sole lawmaker to the APC. The PDP strongly condemned The defections accusing Governor Okwelolo of prioritizing political gains over effective governance, especially amidst rising insecurity. However, Tenebe rejected the bribery allegations, insisting that the defections were made based on genuine conviction. And now to security matters. The Nigerian Senate is calling for urgent intervention by security agencies to address rising insecurity in Benue State, following deadly attacks that claimed 4 lives and destroyed properties worth millions of naira. It is also demanding immediate action from the federal government to tackle the escalating violence in the state. Our national correspondent, Assembly correspondent Sagir Ibrahim here reports.
In a motion moved by the Benue Northwest lawmaker Titus Zam, he explained that the inability of the Benue State government to implement anti-open grazing law passed by the State Assembly has now worsened the security situation in the state.
The inability of the present administration in Benue State to enforce the law has exposed members of the National Assembly from Benue State to undue pressure and name-calling by our constituents. This situation has emboldened the bandits and further worsened the security situation in Benue State and beyond.
In most cases, no statements of condemnation, no demonstration of empathy has been shown by the government of Benue State. Mr. President, as I speak now, those of us elected on the platform of this Senate are endangered species because our communities think, and unfortunately very wrongly, that it is our responsibility to provide security. And so, Mr. President, I think that these killings, this vandalization of property of people who the communities feel should be responsible for their security is one too many.
To further assess the situation, the Senate mandated its committees on national security, Air Force, Defense and Army to conduct a joint assessment tour of the affected communities, sympathize with victims, and provide a detailed report on their findings.
We should mandate our committee on national security and intelligence in combination with other committees of the Army, the Navy, the Air Force, and Defense to visit the areas affected, undertake assessment of the situation, sympathize with the bereaved families and those affected, and also urge the Benue State government to expedite action on its open grazing prohibition law. Those in support of the amendment say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. Prayer 5 is also amended.
The Senate also directed the National Emergency Management Agency to provide relief materials to displaced residents and victims of the recent attacks. In Abuja for News Central, I'm Sagir Ibrahim.
Now, a town hall meeting bringing together law enforcement officials, civil society organizations, and community stakeholders to discuss human rights, police accountability, and criminal justice administration has been held in Lagos. The meeting, organized by RULAC, aimed to foster dialogue and promote transparency and accountability within the policing system. The meeting provided a platform for participants to identify several key areas for improvement, including the need for increased transparency and accountability within the police force, as well as the importance of providing training and resources to support law enforcement officials in their work. Nigeria's Minister of Women's Affairs, Iman Suleiman Ibrahim, has intensified her advocacy for gender equality and women's empowerment at the 69th session of the Commission of the Status of Women in New York. Speaking at a high-level dialogue at the Millennium Hilton Hotel, Suleiman Ibrahim addressed an audience on the theme, "How can women and girls' leadership help save our cities and planet?" She stressed the urgent need for greater female representation in decision-making roles, particularly in addressing the challenges of rapid urbanization, climate change, and sustainability.
Ladies and gentlemen, let me start by saying this is one of the high-level side events that has truly excited me at the CSW 69, which I have been looking forward to attending. And this is not just because of the distinguished voices in the room, not because I'm in the midst of my sisters and friends, but because it speaks directly to an aspect that is largely ignored when women's contribution to national development are being discussed. Their role in shaping sustainable cities, resilient communities, and climate-conscious governance is usually undermined. Too often, women are seen as beneficiaries of urban planning and environmental policies rather than decision makers, innovators, and architects of change. Yet, the evidence is clear. When women lead action, cities become more livable. Economic growth becomes more inclusive and sustainable, and environmental policies become more effective. Today's conversation is a step towards correcting the oversight and ensuring that women and girls are at the forefront of designing and leading sustainable cities of the future. Our world is experiencing unprecedented urbanization, environmental degradation, and climate change impacts, all of which disproportionately affect women and girls. By 2050, an estimated 68% of the global population will live in cities. And already over 1 billion people live in informal settlements in cities where there's limited access to water, sanitation, and clean energy.
And now we go on a break. But when we return, former President Olusegun Obasanjo criticizes the Lagos-Calabar Coastal Highway project, describes it as wasteful and corrupt. We return. Stay with us. Welcome back. The House of Representatives Committee on Finance has amended key provisions of President Bola Tinubu's tax bill, addressing concerns raised by stakeholders during a public hearing in February. The revisions impact several contentious areas, including the proposed increase in value-added tax, the introduction of an inheritance tax, taxation of free trade zones, and funding adjustments for TETFund, NITDA, and NASENI. Presenting the amendments during the bill's consideration on Thursday, Committee Chairman James Falake noted that while stakeholders had recommended reducing the VAT rate to 5%, the committee proposed maintaining the current 7.5%, which the House subsequently adopted. The committee also removed the proposed inheritance tax and scrapped the planned funding cuts for NASENI, TETFund, and NITDA.
We have clear plans to address our out-of-school children. We're going to do conditional cash transfer. We're working with the Humanitarian Affairs Ministry on how we're going to do this. We're trying to plan the process on how this will be done. We've gotten the NIPSI to join us as well, so that we can now have a register that is clean.
Away from political matters now, Nigeria's former President Olusegun Obasanjo has strongly criticized the Lagos-Calabar Coastal Highway project, describing it as wasteful and corrupt. In his newly released book, Nigeria, Past and Future, Obasanjo also took aim at President Bola Tinubu's administration, condemning the 21 billion naira allocation for a new official residence for Vice President Kashim Shettima. He labeled the spending a misplaced priority and alleged that both projects serve as avenues for siphoning public funds. The Lagos-Calabar Coastal Highway, a highly controversial 700-kilometer project, is set to cost an estimated 4.93 billion naira per kilometer, drawing widespread criticism. However, Minister of Works David Umahi has defended the initiative, saying it is being financed through a counterpart funding arrangement, with 4.93 billion naira already released for the first phase. The Nigerian government says it is targeting the creation of over 2 million jobs annually through the Labor Employment Expansion Program and the Nigerian Youth Academy. The announcement was made in Abuja during the signing of a partnership between the Ministry of Labor and Employment and the Ministry of Youth Development. The Minister of State for Labor and Employment explained that the initiative is designed not only for young people, but also for retired professionals and individuals affected by hazardous work conditions who are willing to re-enter the workforce. The Minister of Youth Development described the partnership as a demonstration.
We are collaborating to create jobs and economic opportunities for all Nigerians. For Ministry of Labour, it's not just the youths. It's also about our parents. It's about our retired men in uniform. Because through the remote job, it's not going to ask you your age. You get on the platform and you apply. And by God's grace, you're employed.
For us, as Ministry of Youth Development, we know that the greatness is to indicate the sources of this government, to push forward, to be much and see how we can reduce the unemployment that is facing our country. And this is why the Ministry of Labour and Employment is an important partnership with us, because all ministry, all, and I repeat, works for the Ministry of Youth.
The Vice-Chancellor of the University of Jos, Professor Tanko Ishaya, has advised students of the institution to take advantage of the President Bola Tinubu's Zero-Interest Nigerian Education Loan Fund, NEL Fund, to support their academic pursuits and financial stability. Professor Ishaya was speaking at the 2024-25 matriculation ceremony of the university, where over 10,000 candidates took an oath to be law-abiding students of the institution. News Central's Chizoba Nyanwe tells us more.
Also solemnly undertake.
We are formally and officially welcome into the University of Jos. Great Josiah!
That oath-taking ushered these students officially into the University of Jos, Plateau State, for the next 4 to 6 years, depending on their course of study during their academic program. The Vice-Chancellor remains committed to ensuring that the university imparts in them the necessary knowledge, both in character and learning, for future challenges.
We are fully committed to seeing that we impart you all the necessary skills you desire as you work towards your successful graduation from this great institution. Develop the skills, values, and character that will define your future. Stay focused, stay hungry, and stay foolish.
Former Governor of Imo State, Rochas Okorocha, is convinced that with quality education, the future is bright.
In addition to our formal education, we must introduce informal education, where these children will be a boss of their own. I'm talking about creative education, hands-on education, which is more than theoretical education, practical education, vocational in nature, is what we must look at right now in the face of this. You can have courses like painting, electrical installation, plumbing. These are all education. Education does not mean communication in English.
Some of the matriculants from over 15 faculties in the university shared their thoughts.
I'm from South Africa, and I'm a student of the UniJos, and I'm expecting that at the end of my academic year program, I'll be one of the best students and graduate with the first class.
I just got matriculated today. I'm so happy about that, and I pray that God will guide me and protect me throughout my years as a medical student.
I'm very excited today, and I pray so that I will be successful in life.
With the rising rate of unemployment in Nigeria, it is not just about gaining admission into these tertiary institutions. Rather, it has become worrisome how these youths will be gainfully engaged upon graduation. In Plateau State for News Central, Chizoba Anyowi.
Now, Nasarawa State Governor Abdullahi Sule, alongside other stakeholders, is urging all levels of government and development partners to adopt digital technology to tackle food insecurity in Nigeria. They made this appeal in Abuja during the engagement with agricultural stakeholders keen on improving digital agricultural extensions and advisory services in Nigeria. Our correspondent, Joshua Morai, reports here.
The gathering, which brings together experts, government representatives, and key players in Nigeria's agricultural sector, aims to discuss ways farming practices can be enhanced using digital technology. They emphasize that for Nigeria to overcome food insecurity, indigenous farmers must embrace digital farming solutions to boost productivity and ensure stable food supply.
Food security should not just be a slogan. Food security should be a reality because Nigeria has the capacity to have total food security, but it will only happen if we are serious about it.
Others stress the need for swift action to meet the growing food demands of Nigeria's expanding population.
We need to transform agriculture at this point, and that process needs to be accelerated as quickly as possible because we know that our population is increasing. By 2025, based on the data that we have, if we don't do nothing, food imports will be about $110 billion US. Something needs to be done to stop that, and we need to do that as quickly as possible.
They also highlighted the importance of ensuring that digital farming solutions reach farmers in remote areas, which they say will help maximize the impact of innovative agriculture, thereby boosting Nigeria's food production capacity. In Abuja for News Central, I am Joshua Imarai.
To some health matters now. We understand that the Nigerian Center for Disease Control and Prevention is tracking 357 individuals for possible Lassa fever infection. This follows the death of 31-year-old physician who returned from the United Kingdom on the 27th February 2025 and passed away from Lassa fever on the 1st of March 2025. The doctor was reportedly treated at the private health facility in Ondo State after returning from his trip abroad. According to NCDC data released on Wednesday, 535 confirmed infections have been recorded out of 2,728 suspected cases across 13 states and 75 local government areas. The report also shows that as of 2nd March 2025, over 100 people have died from the disease, with a case fatality rate of 18.7%. Now, the Nigerian government says it is taking steps to strengthen bilateral ties with Brazil as part of an effort to boost diplomatic and economic relations. Nigeria's Minister of Foreign Affairs, Yusuf Tugar, disclosed this during a meeting with Brazil's Foreign Minister Mauro Vieira in Abuja. Tugar revealed that President Bola Tinubu's invitation to attend the G20 summit at the request of Brazil's president aligns with ongoing efforts to deepen ties between both Commonwealth nations. He describes the engagement as a step towards enhancing economic cooperation, trade partnership, and also cultural exchanges.
President Bola Ahmed Tinubu was in Brazil last year upon the invitation of President Lula to attend the G20 summit that took place there, and he had cause to engage in several activities that would further strengthen the bond between the two countries. So this is a continuation of that process, apart from other processes that exist already between the two countries. So Honorable Minister, we welcome you and your delegation warmly. Happy to see you here in Abuja.
And we will continue to prepare the coming events that we have. We have to work on our mechanism for a strategic dialogue and to continue exploring ways to have deeper and closer, even deeper and even closer relations in all areas, as you mentioned, cultural for sure, and also economic and cooperations and education in all other sectors.
Coming up, Angola to host mediation between DR Congo M23 on March 18th. We'll tell you more after the break. Stay with us. And you're welcome back. Now, peace talks between the Democratic Republic of Congo and the Rwanda-backed M23 rebel group are set to begin in Luanda on March 18. Previous mediation efforts by Angola have failed to end the conflict between Congolese forces and the M23 in eastern DRC, a region plagued by violence from multiple armed groups. However, following discussions between Congolese President Felix Tshisekedi and Angolan President João Lourenço, both sides have agreed to negotiate. The M23, which has seized key cities including Goma and Bukavu, has signaled a willingness for dialogue. Since January, the ongoing clashes have claimed over 7,000 lives. No timeline has been set for the negotiations. Now, in South Africa, it's hosting the highly anticipated Africa Trade Conference 2025, a pivotal event that brings together business leaders, policymakers, and innovators from across the continent for a common goal to enhance trade and collaboration among African nations. With the continent facing a myriad of challenges, ranging from regulatory hurdles to infrastructural gaps, this conference serves as a crucial platform for stakeholders to engage in meaningful dialogue. Today, discussions will focus on identifying pragmatic solutions to break down trade barriers that hinder economic growth and prosperity. With Africa's immense potential for growth and its diverse markets, the urgency to foster intercontinental trade has been, or rather never been, more critical. The event aims to explore strategies not just for overcoming obstacles, but for building a more interconnected and thriving African marketplace.
Together key stakeholders from across the continent, including business leaders, government officials, and trade experts, all focused on addressing one critical question: how can African countries trade more effectively with one another?
It's important because it creates a starting point for us to have the relevant conversations to start to address the trade issues we have in Africa.
Amidst a backdrop of diverse challenges ranging from complex trade regulations to inadequate infrastructure, this conference serves as a vital platform for dialogue. Participants are not only sharing insights, but also collaborating on innovative solutions to break persistent trade barriers.
We need to influence policymakers and governments in order for us to be able to have a borderless Africa, as well as learn from each other and create and build that intra-Africa trade.
The urgency for intracontinental trade has never been clearer. Experts emphasize that by fostering stronger ties amid African nations for a more interconnected and thriving marketplace, unlocking opportunities for the growth and development.
The idea is that trade should be more within Africa, not outside Africa. What we find today is that a lot of that trade is really outside Africa. So only 18% of trade is intra-African trade. The rest is outside of Africa. Now, if you look at the other unions, if you look at the European Union, you look at the Asian Union, above 50%. So how do we ensure that we increase? And the participants today have tried to provide a solution. So that's what AFCT is pushing now.
As the discussions unfold, these stakeholders are committed to finding actionable pathway to boost intra-African trade and essential steps towards economic resilience and self-sufficiency.
One of the things we've been able to unlock in Nigeria is the opportunity for small businesses to facilitate trade. And we've been able to see how we're able to facilitate funding and give them abilities to be able to trade. So what we're looking to see is how do we replicate this across the different markets that we play in on the continent.
It's a crucial opportunity to map out strategies that can eliminate trade barriers and expand market reach. In Cape Town, for News Central,
South Africa President Cyril Ramaphosa is co-chairing the 8th EU-South Africa Summit with the President of the European Council, Mr. Antonio Luis Santos da Costa, and the President of the European Commission, Dr. Ursula von der Leyen, in Cape Town. Now, this summit follows a series of preparatory engagements, including the Joint Cooperation Council meeting held in January in Brussels, the Inter-Parliamentary meeting held from February in Cape Town. The summit also serves as an opportunity to intensify the EU's partnership with South Africa, which is a strategic partner for the EU in a challenging context of rising populism and geopolitical instability. News Central's Bongani Sisiba is outside the venue, and we cross to her live for more.
Yes, good afternoon. I'm outside the Parliament live coverage. The much anticipated the EU-South Africa summit taking place right here in Cape Town. And today's summit is an opportunity for the EU and South Africa to deepen their partnership, their relationship, especially in these challenging times marked by geopolitical instabilities around the world. However, there have been significant issues, sudden change of protocol that has left several media houses now stranded outside. Unexpected restrictions, only state media has been granted access, leaving many of us outside here. But however, the summit is now ongoing in full swing, co-chaired by South African President Cyril Ramaphosa, and also the President of the European Council and European Commission are also chairing that. They are also expected to discuss crucial topics, among them trade relations, future of South Africa and EU amidst the international aid dynamics. As you may recall, that the former president, the current rather president of US, Donald Trump, announcement of cutting aid to South Africa. The country has been actively working to redefine the relationship, particularly with EU, which stands as a strategic trading partner now, and the stability of South Africa, especially in the AGOA, also remains a question, the issue that will be on South Africa's agenda in the future. But aside from trade, we know that this summit is also going to address broader political sentiments, especially in the light of these uncertainties. But there is a strong sense of urgency from South Africa to solidify its position and foster beneficial relationship, particularly at this time for economic assistance and collaboration that could be very pivotal at this moment. But while the discussions are ongoing, we wait here just to hear the position of South Africa and EU, what the partners are going to be, what they have rather discussed. But we know that this summit also comes after engagements, the Joint Cooperation Council that happened earlier this year in Brussels, and also the interparliamentary meeting that happened right here in Cape Town in January. So the stakes are very high for EU and also particularly South Africa, especially when everything hangs in the balance today. So like I indicated, the discussions are expected to cover an array of topics, including trade, security, climate change, all crucial to the future of EU and South Africa relations. So we continue to monitor the updates after this meeting here, and as it unfolds, and then we'll bring the updates of what the key leaders of this meeting have discussed. So back to you in the studio now.
Thank you very much, Bongani Sisiba. Now, World Wrap. One of Guatemala's most wanted drug traffickers has been captured in Mexico and handed over to Guatemalan authorities, where he faces possible extradition to the United States. Guatemalan Interior Minister Francisco Jimenez confirmed that Ala Baldomero, accused of leading the criminal group Los Huitas, was apprehended as part of a joint operation involving Guatemala, Mexico, and the United States. Los Huitas is alleged to have trafficked cocaine from South America to Mexico cartels for distribution in the U.S. His arrest comes amid increasing pressures from the U.S. government to curb the flow of illegal drugs into the country. Samayoa, also known as Shishara, was transferred to a prison within the Guatemalan city outpost, or rather courthouse, where he will remain in custody pending extradition proceedings, according to the Public Prosecutor's Office. Members of the French National Assembly have adopted a resolution calling for increased support for Ukraine, including the seizure of frozen Russian assets, a move opposed by the French government. French Defense Minister Sébastien Lecornu spoke following a meeting in Paris with defense ministers from France, Britain, Germany, Italy, and Poland. The discussions come after President Emmanuel Macron urged European military leaders to move from theory to action by drafting a concrete plan to ensure credible security guarantees for Ukraine in the event of a ceasefire.
Pour la France, je pense, pour l'ensemble de l'Assemblée, pour notre groupe qui a porté cette résolution, un très beau travail de collaboration, on peut le dire, par l'ensemble des députés. Même ceux qui étaient contre ont apporté des pierres intéressantes à l'édifice. Je le pense réellement. La France en sort grandie ce soir. Je pense que l'Ukraine repart avec un message fort, nos partenaires européens également, le gouvernement français aussi, avec une mission qu'il devra assurer. Les pistes sont tracées, il reste maintenant à aller jusqu'au bout et à faire en sorte que la Russie accepte de négocier dans les conditions que l'Ukraine fixera, en soutien bien entendu derrière elle. Nous serons présents, nous les Européens et la France avec elle.
Ce soir, il fallait apporter notre soutien à l'Ukraine et pas un soutien de pacotille, parce qu'on a bien vu ce soir dans l'hémicycle qu'il y avait des parlementaires de pacotille qui défendaient l'Ukraine la main sur le cœur, mais quand il fallait agir, quand il fallait sanctionner, quand il fallait investir dans l'Europe, ne sont pas là. Et en fait, il faut avoir des mots, mais des actes c'est mieux, et c'est là-dessus qu'il faut agir, et l'Assemblée nationale l'a démontré ce soir.
China has urged a diplomatic resolution to the Iran nuclear issue as it prepares to host diplomats from Tehran and Moscow for talks in Beijing. Speaking at a regular press briefing on Thursday, Foreign Ministry spokeswoman Mao Ning stressed the need for restraint, warning against any escalation that could lead to confrontation or conflict. Beijing will host trilateral discussions on Iran's nuclear programs on Friday, with Chinese Foreign Minister Mao Zhangzu, Russian Deputy Foreign Minister Sergei Ryabkov, and Iranian Deputy Foreign Minister Kazem Gharibabadi in attendance.
是中方最新的外交努力，旨在加强沟通协调，为早日恢复对话谈判创造条件。在当前形势下，我们认为有关各方都应当保持冷静克制，避免议和局势升级，甚至走向对抗冲突。中方真诚希望各方能够相向而行，不断地增信释疑，早日将重启对话谈判的势头转化为现实。
More than 340 train passengers taken hostage by militants have been rescued following a 30-hour siege in Pakistan's southwestern Balochistan province. Security forces launched a major operation after a separatist group bombed a railway track in the mountainous region and stormed the train, which was carrying around 450 passengers. During the operation, 346 hostages were freed and more than 30 militants were killed. However, 27 off-duty soldiers traveling as passengers were shot dead by the attackers. An army official confirmed that one on-duty soldier also lost his life during the clearance operation. Earlier reports from railway officials and paramedics indicated that the train driver and a police officer had also been killed. Business now. The Nigerian Electricity Regulatory Commission has set a July 2025 deadline for states to assume full control over their electricity markets. In line with the Electricity Act 2023, NEC has transferred regulatory oversight to 10 states, including Lagos, Enugu, Kogi, Ekiti, Ondo, and Imo, as they prepare to manage electricity generation, transmission, and distribution. Kogi State Electricity Regulatory Commission officially assumed oversight, with NEC's pledging continued support. The Electricity Act 2023 enables states and private entities to independently manage electricity markets, fostering localized energy solutions. For sports, Nigeria's Amaju Pinnick narrowly missed retaining his FIFA Council seat, falling short by just one vote at the 14th CAF Extraordinary Congress in Cairo. Pinnick garnered 28 votes, while Mauritania's Ahmed Yahya and Djibouti Suleiman Hassan Waberi secured the final spot with 29 votes each. Speaking on Game On, Digital Sports Africa co-founder Emeka Enyadike and African football expert Mamadou Gaye emphasized the importance of thorough preparation before such elections. They noted that candidates must strategize effectively and secure strong backing to achieve the best possible outcome in future FIFA Council bids.
Let's give Amadou Pini his flowers. Let's give him credit for how far he's gone. And let's welcome him back. There are other ways in which he can continue to contribute to football in Nigeria. I don't think we should cry over split milk or even, I mean, this is an election. And the truth of the matter is that, we've seen it even with FIFA elections. Things change. You have to be on your toes. These things have to be there.
Pinnick lost by one single vote. But to be honest also, the problem was Wafu B only had 4 candidates out of the 10. Wafu B. And when you take Wafu B, there are only 7 countries. 7! 7, you have 4 candidates. You know that most of you are not going to make it. Because you're lobbying your vote, your approach.
And that's all at this hour. But before we go, let's take another look at some of the major stories. Senator Natasha Akpoti-Uduaghan has filed contempt application against Senate President Godswill Akpabio over her suspension. And Rivers State House of Assembly has called on the Department of State Services to investigate Chief Judge Justice Simeon Amadi over allegations of age falsification. We also told you that Angola is set to host peace talks between DR Congo and M23 on March 18. Remember now, you can send your eyewitness report to the WhatsApp number on your screens. And do follow us on social media. We are at News Central TV. You can watch News Central live on DSTV channel 422, GoTV channel 23, Star Times channel 274, Avo TV, and of course on YouTube. Many thanks for watching. My name is Mazino Appeal.